Hello everyone, I'm Lalu, and when I applied to this conference, I was possibly with many of you striking as a teaching assistant for a cost of living adjustment, the crisis of university industrial complex. As always, I applied in last minute, gathering some of my materials from my prospectus. Since I have written my prospectus, I could not get back to my research much. Crisis never ended. Although that was why I needed to leave Turkey, to be able to keep up some distance from never-ending crisis, to breathe in a country where a lot of people, black people, undocumented people, trans people, can't breathe. Last Tuesday, I walked into the classroom that I'm TAing. I'm not ready to be among the crowds, but I'm trying my best to be here in the US and get back to life. The class is Black Feminisms. Professor Gina Yulis is teaching the course. At the end of the first page of her brilliant work, because when God is too busy, Haiti, me, and the world, she says, quote, I grew up under a dictatorship. I have a complicated relationship with silence, unquote. I did not grow up in a dictatorship, but I spent most of my years under one. And one thing about dictatorships is that you're not allowed to say that you're under one when you're living in it. I'm quoting Professor Yulis again. How do you call a place home that doesn't allow you to forget? How do you call a place home that tears you inside out? Unquote. Last week was titled Interiors and Praxis, Black Feminist Praxis. Audre Lorde's master tools will never dismantle the master's houses. Chandra Talpade Mohanty's revisit of Under Western Eyes. Professor Yulis is putting up a Nina Simone song. There is an earthquake relief humanitarian aid advertisement popping up. Tears ran into my eyes. I am trying so hard to push them away, but an eye contact. Some tears drop down. Gina is trying her best to turn off the ad. I don't want to look, but I see the rebels. Wrecked cities. I hate answering. My family is okay. They are not, we are not, this world is not okay. Rebels is a new word I learned in English. Under the rebels, I kept saying rebels. These 2 weeks, rebels, screams. It is not a natural disaster. It is a political disaster that kept being screamed and silenced. I breathe, avoid eye contact. I don't want to cry in the middle of the classroom, as they were only TA. I would be too much. I stay. We talked about the master's tool. Hello, everyone. I'm Lalu. I prefer they don't pronounce. I'm a Lubunya, and I also identify as a trans non-binary. I'm from Turkey. I'm Laz, which is an ethnic and linguistic minority, an indigenous group native to the east coast of Black Sea. I'm medium height. I have silver black hair, razor short on the side, curly and lash on top. I'm wearing a yellow t-shirt that says Cola for All and blue jeans. I'm behind the microphone on the right side of the screen, speaking to you. And I want to let you know that I'm still having a hard time being in crowds and my research, as my life is in crisis again. I applied to this conference to present Koli Sinemalari, a Transfeminist Research-Archive-Creation, which is currently a hybrid PhD dissertation or a research creation that centers on Lubunya's experiences of collective porn watching, community building, and sex work in porn movie theaters in Turkey. Koli is one of the most used words in Lubunja. Koli defines a whole variety of situations concerning sexuality. Koli holds various meanings depending on its emphasis and uses. It may mean sex, fuck, or lovemaking, and can designate a sexual partner or a customer for a sex worker. Lubunja is a queer slang. It is a mix of Romani, Greek, Arabic, Armenian, French, and made-up words. It emerged in the 17th century Ottoman Empire, mainly in Istanbul. It is commonly spoken by Lubunyas, sex workers, and LGBTQI+ community in Turkey and its diasporas. Lubun, Labun, or Lubunya means gay, queer, fairy. The word comes from Romani word Lubni, feminine prostitute. Currently, Lubunya is an umbrella term encompassing non-normative gender and sexualities in Turkey. However, lubunya is not just an identity category. It is a verb, it is an act, it is a way of being, a way of socializing and doing things. A political category that is being reclaimed in trans-feminist ways by new generations of lubunyas. To illustrate what I mean, I would like to unpack this 28th Istanbul Pride March poster. Two bodies holds poster with slogans saying, Lubunyas exist, Kurdistan exists. To reclaim the existence of Lubunyas and Kurdistan in the context of Turkey, a nation state, is an intersectional transfeminist politics that critically engage with racial, gendered, and sexual dynamics in Turkey. However, as being trans does not make one a transfeminist, doing lubunying things may or may not be transfeminist. In March 2020, I ran away from Santa Cruz to be in a place that I feel safer and surrounded by my communities during COVID-19 pandemic. I literally caught one of the last flights and spent a year and a half of the COVID pandemic, aka recent crisis, and most possibly the one giving name to this conference, in Turkey. We were a bunch of Lubunyas based in Kurtuluş, Istanbul, and we quickly became a small Lubunya corner support group. I was zooming into the classes late at nights. I had a small research funding to continue oral history interviews on Koli cinemas. In one of our cozy house gatherings, when I was sharing my research ideas with my folks in Lubunyas, it became apparent to us that most of us have never seen a porn in a public or collective watching setting. And these days, we were mostly depressed, and most of the group, or Lubunyas, worked in nightlife, and they lost their jobs and financial means during the pandemic. Me, Arya, and Sim gathered together and became a small research creation team to battle with the COVID-19 depression and create a space for intentional gatherings. We have turned Arya's house into a Koli cineması. Everyone chose a porn film or an erotic excerpt they wanted to watch collectively in our very own and not very movie theater Koli cineması. We have collectively watched porn and talk about our experiences and memories of Koli Sinemalari. Now I would like to share a clip from that. Sorry about the half.
Hoş geldiniz. Öncelikle birkaç ufak kuralımız var. Onları hatırlatacağım yani. Bildiğiniz üzere içerideki altına alınacağı için seslerin üst üste binmesini önlemek adına teker teker geçiyoruz. Bu için aynı zamanda teker teker kıyıklar, her şey kıyı altına alındığı için en doğru yani.
Commonly known as 3+1 or triple feature movie theaters or adult movie theaters, sex cinemas were a big phenomenon in Turkey from the 70s to the early 2000s. They emerged in the aftermath of 71 military memorandum, and the movie theaters across Turkey that used to screen Turkish Hollywood or Yeşilçam films, which were very family-friendly or known as one, started to screen erotic films and insert hardcore pornographic sequences into the films. Film critics and film historians from Turkey named the immense production and exhibition of pornography in the late 70s as sex influx, sex hurriyası. These, quote-unquote, man-only sex cinemas survived another coup d'etat in 1980, and they became really popular during one of the most conservative coalition governments of the history of Turkey. And by 1995, one of the third Istanbul's movie theaters were sex cinemas. Although they promoted themselves as men-only spaces, there were some sex cinemas that were open to Lubunyas. This is what Lubunyas called as Koli Sinemalari, sex cinemas that were open to sexual dissidents. Koli Sinemalari were one of the refuge for Lubunyas. They could explore and express their gender and sexuality. They met with other Lubunyas, learn Lubunca, and by all means they could have sex, kolileşmek, perform sex work, beldeli koli, or find partners, customers, lovers, koli, while heterosexual porn flickered across the screen. Koli Sinemalari is a transfeminist research archive creation that aims to produce a community-determined Koli Sinemalari archive, engage with collective porn curation and porn watching, and documentary filmmaking. Koli Sinemalari literally translates as sex fuck cinemas. By linking Lubunca word koli to the Turkish word sinemalari, I aim to designate the multi-layered structure of Koli Sinemalari. This also situates the project as a process of translating and translation as one of its methodologies. This Transfeminist Research Archive-Creation project translates literally across different languages, Turkish, English, Lubunca, across different social, economic, cultural, and political contexts. It also creates an embodied translation experience for me as the researcher who translates between archivist, researcher, filmmaker, and between different community member and between different political, social, cultural, and theoretical contexts. And also, I aim to use this text, image, sound, film all together. So within the research creation dissertation, this translates between different media. And in my written component of the dissertation, I aim to hyperlink these audio and video excerpts, embed visual components as a way for reader to engage with Koli Sinemalari archive through different modes of reception, listening to oral history interviews in Turkish, mixed with Lubunca, given some information in written form, and interchanging between different roles and reception modes. So it invites its audience to translate between different acts of reception, reading, listening, watching, in its consumption. So translation is one of the fundamental challenges of this project, and it does not only start from the literal translation of Lubunya or Lubunca, but it also includes the political questions of how should I translate Lubunya histories, knowledge, and practices of Turkey into an academic research creation project in the US. And my understanding of transfeminism resembles Lubunya. Transfeminism for me is a praxis, a mode of being and doing things. And this understanding is very much informed by Black feminist thought, transnational feminisms, women of color, and trans-color feminisms. And of course, transfeminism has taken different forms, meanings, and trajectories in the context of Turkey. And if there is interest, I would love to unpack them during the Q&A. And in this view, to do something in a transfeminist way, for me, is to transform and abolish normative systems and thoughts. Sometimes this doing might be to reimagine the present and the future worlds, and in my work, it is also a way of tracing and reimagining the past, which shapes my approach to the notion of the archive itself. And I would like to end with a small performative exercise. I want to invite you to close your eyes for a while and imagine, or try to imagine, that you are in Ankara. Ankara is a concrete capital in the middle of Anatolia. And you pass through the parliament, walk up the hill with cool fall October breeze. You reach to a local bar called Haymatlos Mekan. Haymatlos, the stateless or the one without a homeland. This cozy Ankara bar transformed into an exhibition space. Curator and facilitator of this exhibition, Hülya Dolaş, hand-painted a map of hammams, sex cinemas, parks, hotels, hairdressers, and coffee houses that were a refuge to Lubunyas. Queer and trans walks in the 80s and 90s Ankara. While you look into a Lubunya sites of Ankara map on the wall, among other Lubunyas, queers, feminists, and art lovers, state haters, and die-hard allies in Ankara, you'll listen Mine, Görkem, and Ganimet, telling about their memories of sex cinemas. Lubunya hammams, pre-Wi-Fi Lubunya gatherings, spots fill the soundscapes of Ayumampos. Again, it's October 2016. I think that part didn't work well. I want for you to listen to oral history interviews while I was trying to set up the scene in Ankara, because that's where this whole idea initiated. And I was trying to get to you a point that there was another state of emergency when I had this idea of this project, which is I Am the Will exhibition, which was in Ankara that day, and that's where I was trying to get up. But I will be happy to talk more about it in the Q&A, and thank you for your time.